1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast Soundcheck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wednesday show live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast Soundcheck. Hello. Sorry. Start again. Hello and welcome to the Wednesday show here on the Royal Blue Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Croll. Alongside me, we have the return of Connor O'Neill. We are live on YouTube today, and today we are going to do something a little bit different. As the title of this podcast says, we are going to discuss and assess 5 realistic loan targets Everton could sign in January to help with the push for Europe. As mentioned, we are live, so get your comments in. We really appreciate the reaction. Just a quick word for our sponsor as well, NordVPN. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/EFC. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on a 2-year plan, and there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. To find out more, to find out what Nord have got on offer, and I do go and recommend it, the link is in the podcast episode description box. Connor, it feels like it is a bit of a long-awaited return. The last time you were on the Royal Blue Podcast, when was it? I can't even remember.
Well, not last week, the week before, was it? I think we done one. Oh,
what was the reaction about? Obviously, probably a defeat, no doubt, or a poor draw.
It was post Sunderland in the FA Cup.
See, I was right. It was, you could incorporate both of them in that match.
Yeah.
A draw and a penalty shootout loss.
Yeah.
How are things anyway? All good.
Not too bad. Just about warming up from Monday night.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because Chris Beasley, hard as nails, old school, said on yesterday's podcast that people were complaining how cold it was, and he was just like, get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm quite fortunate enough that I sit next to Chris Beasley and Joe Thomas in the press box at games, and Chris's coat is not, let's just say, the thickest and biggest of coats that you often see. It's certainly not thinner than one I was wearing on Monday. So yeah, I think he is a lot more as hard as nails when it comes to the old colds.
More of a suave type of coat, isn't it?
Yeah. Whereas I go for like the big bubble jacket in aid to stay warm, but that was a bit unsuccessful on Monday because I thought it was really cold.
Well, we're not gonna talk about Leeds, because I've spoke about Leeds 1, Everton 1 twice over the past 2 days, and it's burning me head out.
Oh,
but what I will say is, was there a tear in your eye seeing Dominic Calvert-Lewin in a white shirt rather than a blue shirt?
There's no tears.
I know how much how fondly you felt for him.
If I was in the ground as a fan, I certainly would have been one who clapped, not booed, because there was a bit of a mixed reaction for him, wasn't he?
Yeah, there wasn't there? Yeah,
yeah, from supporters there was a boos and some applause. I definitely would have been applauding him. I thought he played really well. Obviously,
first half anyway.
Helped set up their goal, didn't he? Should be scored himself, but the one he gets the post, maybe it was a bit too instinctive. But I thought he gave Tarkowski and O'Brien a tough evening in the first half, especially. Second half, obviously, Everton were much improved, and second half felt like he was watching for Everton in recent years, where he was feeding off scraps and chasing channels. But I thought first half he was really good, and it was a nice 2 forwards, wasn't it? Really, for being honest, because obviously we'll get on to him, but Tiano Barry obviously scores for Everton, the man who was brought in to not so much replace, well, probably was brought in to replace the departure of Calvert-Lewin. So yeah, it was just nice to see Dom back on home soil as he used to be. Well, it wouldn't be home soil because he never played at Hill Dickinson before.
No,
it would have been Goodison Park, but no tears. But nice to see him return.
Can he make the England squad?
He's got a chance.
Okay,
he's got a chance.
We'll leave that there. I mean, a striker
he's got a chance. There's still a long way to go. That's the only thing I want to say.
Okay, A striker that you've just mentioned there, and we are going to discuss, an Everton striker who wears the royal blue shirt, Tiano Barry, and you had the pleasure of speaking with him after the game on Monday. We are going to come on to that. So everyone who's listening now, whether it's live or on Apple or Spotify, stick with us this podcast, because Connor did speak to Tiano Barry in the mix zone on Monday, and we are going to dedicate a segment of this show to Connor's chat with Tiano and his thoughts on his performance. So I know you're eager to do so. Before we get into what the title of this podcast is, 5 realistic loan targets Everton could sign in January. First question before we do that is, do Everton need to strengthen in January in order to qualify for Europe? Do you think, have they got enough to finish 7th and 8th the way things stand now with injuries and not going into the market?
I don't think so. I think they still need a couple of bodies to come in, certainly from an attacking point of view. A winger probably is more of a priority at the minute, isn't it, given the Jack Grealish injury? And being honest, it doesn't sound too great, does it, from what David Moyes said on Friday and then what he said on Monday. And, you know, the update on Monday night after Monday night's game was that I don't think he's even had surgery yet, let alone he started the recovery. So, you know, it's pretty much nearly a week now lost, isn't it? Since a week since it was confirmed. So the fact he hasn't had surgery is a bit of a blow. I'd still have concerns about the squad, because I think if you look at what happened, obviously, you know, it was unfortunate with Ndiaye and Garnagay both going off to AFCON, but obviously the injuries picked up to Dewsbury and one or two others, along with the suspensions. It did put Everton on the back foot somewhat, and that is not beyond the realms of possibility happening again. You know, all it takes is one or two injuries and a suspension, and Everton a bit threadbare again, aren't they? The bench did look, obviously the bench made a massive impact, didn't it, on Monday night.
Stronger than it's looked at all season.
That you know, and you know, quite telling that David Moyes wasted no time, did he, in getting some of them reinforcements on the pitch. Admittedly, you know, he didn't want to do as early as he did, but he felt like he had a little choice. So yeah, I think Everton have got a chance of finishing the top 7, top 8 with the squad they've got. There's no question about that. But I think it's certainly just lacking one or two who can have a bit of an impact.
No one's breaking away though. I think that's the thing, isn't it? That's why we're kind of like still fluctuating between 13th, 14th, back up to 7th, 8th.
Yeah, I mean, even like the top, you know, from probably Liverpool onwards, no one's breaking. Like, Liverpool was it 13 games unbeaten before the defeat of Bournemouth on Saturday. But we're not exactly miles clear where they're in the race for 4th, because they've drawn so many games in that run. Manchester United have won 2 games and shot up the table.
Champions League.
And are in the top 4 now. You know, Newcastle were beaten by Villa, weren't they, the weekend? You know, again, it looked like last week the wheels going to fall off Villa because after they've been beaten by Everton, but they've gone bounce back with a win at St James's Park. I think it's a double-edged sword this season, isn't it? Because I think it's wide open in terms of what can happen getting into Europe, even the title, because I think now that there's a title race on, isn't it? 4 points between City and Arsenal. That's not the biggest of gaps. At the bottom, it's getting tighter. You know, Leeds have done really well in recent weeks, and then all of a sudden they arrived on Merseyside on Monday, probably needing to win to get a little bit of a buffer back, because results have gone against them, and West Ham have all of a sudden rediscovered a bit of form, and Forest have picked up a win on Sunday. So it's really tight, but I think the opportunity comes in is probably not the best Premier League as it we've seen in recent years in terms of quality and the standard. I think it's been quite a poor league, if we're being honest. I think, like, you know, Man United, a prime example. Yes, they've got some very good players, and you know, Bruno Fernandes and Buemo, but they've largely been so poor for huge spells of this season so far. Often mocked because of how poor they've been, and yet, you know, they are right now in the mix for a top 4 finish. So I think there's 2 elements in and I think that's why we've also seen as well, maybe not so much David Moyes in this, but so many managers frustrated, I think, by like the club's transfer activity or things that are going on, because I think there's a lot of managers probably out there who realise they're never going to have a better opportunity than what they've got right now. You know, Unai Emery is a prime example of that. He's probably looking at this thinking, we're never going to have a better opportunity of getting back in the Champions League, the one we've got right now.
Just let me come in. I understand the Emery thing, because
Arsenal will never have a better chance of winning the title. What they've got right now.
No. I agree with you on that, because Villa are technically in the title race and with a chance of.
But no one thinks they're going to win the league, do they?
No, but they're obviously prime position for finishing the Champions League. Do you think Moyes is frustrated? I don't think he's shown to be as frustrated in January as he was in the summer, because
and he's not shown as much as other managers have shown with their frustration this month after. Like,
no,
Emery's made some pretty strange comments for a manager who's doing so well,
but that's what he's making strange comments for a manager who's doing well, but he knows he needs more. Whereas Moyes obviously knows he needs more. There's no question about that. But is he more understanding of the situation where, if Everton finish in Europe, great. If they don't, then we kick on for next season.
Well, anything really. It all comes back to, I think I spoke about this in the pod, and Gav's mentioned it with yourself, is what were the ambitions at the start of the season? What were the targets? What were the objectives?
Survive.
Now, they've done that quite comfortably, Everton, okay. The home form has not been great, but away from home they've been pretty solid, and they picked up some impressive results. No one thinks Everton in danger going down, do they? Let's be brutally honest. Compared to this time last year, when I think we were all nervously sat there, even though Moyes had returned, thinking, oh God, like, we're not a million miles away from being really sucked into this. And, but obviously managed to pull away. This year, they've been quite solid throughout the whole campaign. So if that was the aim and the objective, well, Moyes is going to smash that, isn't he? Because they're basically going into a new calendar year where they're not under threat of relegation. So in that respect, he's already overachieving from what the ambition, the target was. The problem is, the opportunity that's presented itself is probably one that we didn't really foresee coming, because I think at the start of the season we all presumed the top 6 or 7 teams would be set in stone and would be hard to kind of break that wall down. And the other side of it is perhaps David Moyes has overachieved too soon with this group of players, to the point of where people are now saying, well, why can't we aim for Europe? Well, we probably can't aim for Europe because deep down there's probably a realisation that the squad's not good enough to compete for Europe. But because of the position that we've got ourselves in and how the league panned out, that opportunity has presented itself a little bit.
In the summer, Everton obviously have got a lot to do.
Yeah.
Transfer-wise, there's no question about that. So say, for instance, if Everton do get Europe, can you imagine how much more we need to do to add to the squad to compete in Europe effectively? Obviously, I know we're not going to go on and win the league, but effectively we're competing on 4 fronts. That's what we'll be doing. So you not only, I'm not saying I don't want Europe, I do. What I'm saying is, if we do get Europe, it's 4 fronts you're going to have to add to the squad, maybe even more. Maybe you're going to have to add to the squad where you think that player, I wouldn't usually go for him, but he's just, he's a 5 or 6 out of 10, and he adds depth to the squad at the same time. It's an interesting dynamic. So I guess I'll ask you, this is a mad question, because they shouldn't really be differentiated. Who needs Europe right now? Who needs Europe more? David Moyes, for his own personal managerial career, to get into Europe and then hopefully win a trophy with Everton, or Everton? Because when you think about it, this new rule that's coming in, squad cost ratio, you're hindered if you go in Europe, because you're having to spend less than what you would if you weren't in Europe.
Yeah, probably.
It's so complicated.
They probably both do, don't they? Because on the Moyes side of things, because expectation levels have risen so high, and because people do believe there's an opportunity to get into Europe, and there is, because of where Everton find themselves in the table, the pressure's on Moyes to kind of deliver that and kind of walk the walk, because he spoke, hasn't he, quite glowingly about raising expectations and changing mentality and stuff like that. Well, there's no better way to show that you're doing that than getting into the European places. And the club probably needs it, in a sense of it'll open up more avenues. Obviously, it'll increase there'll be more home games to increase match day revenue.
Yeah.
Plus the stadium on the European map, because obviously the big games going across the world. So they probably both need it, but at the same time, we're probably at a position where it's too soon, if that makes sense, because it's come to probably earlier than what all of us thought. People probably thought maybe get this season out the way, and the next year maybe challenge like we are this season. So to answer your question, I think they both do, but at the same time they both do in a way in which it's just be how circumstances have played out more than I think. I don't think at the start of the season and maybe I might be completely wrong on this, I don't think David Moyes was getting told, like, you've got to get the team into the top 7 this season. We've got to be playing in Europe next season. I for the life of me, really can't see that was he might have hoped that he could do that, but I don't think he'd have been like, that's your target, that's what we expect you to do. But because of how things have presented themselves, the opportunities there. So I think they both do, but at the same time, I understand the argument where people say it might be, a year too soon. I think my issue is, I don't think there's much wrong with the Thursday, Sunday thing, because I think the way the Premier League's gone now, you play so many Sunday matches anyway that it's almost become the norm to play Sundays.
There might be less midweek games, but then if we're in Europe, we're playing midweek anyway.
But I think the problem is the squad is, you would have to be able to freshen things up. And I think we saw at the start of this season, there was a reluctance from David Moyes to turn to his bench, wasn't he? It was largely the same 13 players played every week. When he only really made subs when he really, really had to. A lot of the time, he'd just tend to leave his best players on the pitch for as long as possible. So that shows that you can't do that playing in Europe. You can't play 8 games in the Conference League and play everyone every week. You would have to freshen things up. So they would have to bring in players more. And like you say there could be an element where they start to bring in players who are not the most attractive on paper, but they can come in and do a job. And similar to what, I think the Ashley Young signing was a bit like, wasn't it, a couple of years ago, where, it's not the most exciting name, but the reality is he was a player who come in who had a lot of Premier League experience, played at the highest level, and could play multiple positions. And as it turned out to be, having a player who can play multiple positions is very valuable. So I think there's definitely that element to it, but it's all on the opportunities that presents itself, and that's why I think we are in this conundrum now of stick or twist a little bit.
Yeah, and what else is in play, which is more from a broader, wider picture, is David Moyes' contract runs out in 12 months after this season. The reason I asked that question is because of this. He's almost in a rush to be as successful as possible at Everton, whereas we've had this chat with Gav where the Freakins and Angus Kinnear might be a little bit more, not level-headed, I guess, but just a little bit more, let's keep things stable and build up from the bottom. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they like I said before, this where it comes down to expectations, goals, ambitions, objectives. The likes of Angus Kinnear and the Freakins could be sat there now going, my God, how much is David Moyes overachieving with this group of players? And for what? The injuries and the suspensions and the people away we've had, to be in this position in January is more than we thought we were going to be. So he could be surpassing expectations already. It's just obviously fans' expectations change based on results. And, the thing with David Moyes is it probably took him, 7 or 8 years to build a good team, what we saw towards the back end of his spell in the first, the back end of his first spell in charge of the club, and he thinks like, Baines, Pienaar, Arteta, there was some Fellaini, there was some very, very good players in there, obviously Coleman.
Different time that was,
but it took him a long, that was like a number of transfer windows built up to that, wasn't it? And
he's not got that time.
He hasn't got that time. He knows himself. He's not got 8 years to build a squad to eventually, do what he was doing, all them years ago. So he is in a bit of a rush, I think. But like I say, it all comes down to what the Fredkins and people at the football club, their expectations were at the start of the season.
Okay, some questions just on what we're speaking about. So Kevin Kraft says, Connor O'Neill is spot on. It may be too early for Europe just yet. I don't think you said that, but you just say maybe. And I think he's in agreement with you, isn't he?
I just think, like you say there, it's all on recruitment, isn't it? I know it's the most probably where you said on this podcast over the years, isn't it? It's recruitment, because we've spoke to death about recruitment and where it's gone wrong and where it's gone right and what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. But there's some big decisions coming Everton's way this summer anyway. I mean, admittedly, we've made some inroads to that in recent weeks with the likes of Tarkowski signing a new contract, Garner signing a new contract. That enables, Moyes has got a core spine, hasn't he, which he can build upon. Obviously, Brownthwaite, Pickford, they're players who are here for the long term. But they also have a number of other contract decisions that they've got to make coming up. They obviously need to recruit. I think, they still need some better players to come in. So if you got all that, and then the fact of, well, we now also need to build a squad to compete in Europe. That's a lot in one window to do, and it's going to have to be done in one window. Plus, as well, this year will be harder to recruit players because it's a World Cup year, and obviously, whenever there's a major competition at an international level, it's notoriously always tougher to recruit because clubs who have players who are going to be in the shop window will hold on to them till after the World Cup because they might have a great World Cup and it adds to the interest. Clubs might not be able to get players in early because their players are going to be away on international duty and stuff like that.
Just on that, sorry to jump in. You are right, and we've spoke about how difficult it is sometimes during the World Cup year. I mean, things are done far quicker now, so they can be done remotely and stuff. But does it not make the club think, well, maybe we try and get a little bit of business done early in this January window if we think we're going to struggle in the summer?
But then it's on the accountancy year, isn't it, and stuff like that. There's so many ways now, isn't it, the way it's judged and stuff like that, and for PSR and whatnot, where some clubs might not have the manoeuvre. Also, as well, you pay maybe a bit more of a premium, don't you? In January,
you probably do
because people the desperation of trying to bring someone in. So there's a lot of factors to consider. We spoke last summer about how Moyes had to basically rebuild a squad from not scratch, just because he did have some very good players there last summer, but players left, players needed to come in. If we're being honest, the squad was probably a little bit short by the time the window closed, even with the business Everton done. So to go and do that again this summer, with the added thing of having to get into Europe, I think that's a big ask. And maybe I feel bad saying this because I think it would be great to see European football so early at Hill Dickinson Stadium, because let's be honest, given how tough the last few years have been, I think it was all a little bit beyond our wildest dreams that so early on to Everton's new home could European football be played. But I don't know if it would be the worst thing in the world if it wasn't.
Jess Drury says, if we got into the Conference League, you probably wouldn't need to always pick your best players. I mean, I guess you don't want to underestimate anyone, but you think Everton would go in as favourites in that competition?
They would be one of them, wouldn't they? Because all English clubs are often the favourites for Conference League and Europa League, so they probably would be. But look, it's the luck of the draw, isn't it? Because you could end up getting some half-decent sides, and that's the other problem as well. It's all well. I completely understand where Jess is coming from in that.
Liverpool would end up in it.
In sense of you can rotate and stuff like that. But the other thing for Moyes is he doesn't want to go in there, start rotating and play weakened teams and getting beat, because that's not good. And we all saw the backlash that come with the League Cup debacle at Wolves this season when he played a weakened team from the one that played the weekend before. So I agree with what Jess is saying there in terms of it should open up avenues for Everton to play somewhat rotated teams, but all it takes is one or two bad defeats, and also you've got to think of the fans. Some of them places where you could end up going to the Conference League are very far away, and you pay a lot of money to go there, and you end up watching a B team and they get stuffed 3-0. You're not going to be very happy, are you?
I think if you are right, but I think if you start the season out,
and that puts them under pressure, though. Because then you have one bad result in the Premier League afterwards, and you're under pressure.
If we're fighting on all fronts, and I think fans would be accepting to an extent of what's the priority for, say, if we're getting what's the priority for next season? Well, obviously league position, survival, safety.
You can't afford to go down, can you?
No,
the first point of anything.
But then the next thing is to qualify for Europe again. 6th, 7th. Push for, I don't know, Champions League place. Maybe that's unrealistic. But then the next priority after that is go and win, say, the Conference League, the FA Cup, and the League Cup. Unfortunately, become third and fourth fiddle in the grand scheme of things of the season. Now, I know people can say, well, we forfeit the League Cup already this season, which, technically, I don't think we'd be far off saying that.
Quite ironic, though, isn't it? How the team that starts at Wolves in the League Cup was not too dissimilar to the one that starts against Sunderland in the FA Cup.
Yeah, well, he was forced on that one, so he couldn't really learn his lesson. Moyes could he on that? But I think that's what I mean. So fans would have to be accepting, and I think they would. If we're fighting on all four fronts, what's the priority? This, and then this is the second one. And everyone's going to be happy. Everyone's going to be made up with a European run, a European tour. I don't know. I can't even remember how that competition runs, but you're looking at least what?
4 away games, isn't it?
Four away games,
4 home games.
So 8 games in total. That's fantastic. That would be brilliant for the season. And we never win the cup or the League Cup anyway. So what does that?
Okay, it's not a competition, aren't we?
We'd have more chance of winning the Conference League probably than we would the League Cup and the FA Cup, because at the end of the day, okay, you might come up against a lower level league team early rounds, but you're always going to end up coming up against the Chelsea, Arsenal, City, or Liverpool in the semi-final.
Law of averages. When you look this year, the Carabao Cup, the 4 semi-finalists are Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, Newcastle.
Exactly. So it's tough, and they're not in the Conference League. Just address some questions before we start coming on to this these loan targets. So the Blues have says, even with additions in January, it's unlikely we get Europe, and Europe is killing Palace this season because they don't have the squad. It is a conundrum, innit?
I agree with that, but I also think there's other issues clearly going on in Palace that are not helping this season, and they've obviously all come out in recent weeks. The captain Mark Gay going to City, Oliver Glasner off ski at the end of the summer.
Eze left, didn't he?
Eze went at the start of the season. Mateta wants out. And he does. I think I can understand the logic of the squad, and it's not helping. But I think there's a few other things going on in Palace that are derailing their season somewhat this year.
David E. Yoro, I think that's how you say his name. I know he comments quite regularly. So, David, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, let me know. Hopefully it's right. He says, the table shows we're very much still in the running. We have players coming back. Just make a couple of signings to strengthen. Well, this is where we come in, because we've got...
That's a nice segue, that, wasn't it?
We've got five loan signings that we could bring in. Just warn everyone that the 5 players that we've picked, they're not going to blow the world away. But it's because they are loan signings, aren't they? That's the issue.
Yeah.
So what we've done is, no expense spared, for those who are watching on YouTube, created a picture graphic of the 5 people, and as we talk about them, they're going to come up on the screen. So the first one, Connor, I'll read out a couple of bits of information, and then we can discuss and let us know in the comments on the live stream whether you think it's a viable option. We've got on screen now Manchester United forward Joshua Zirkzee. Centre forwards, false number 9. Currently out of favour at United, probably on big wages though, but he hasn't featured under Michael Carrick since he started. 14 appearances, 4 starts and 2 goals. And I know in the past he's reportedly been linked. I know our colleague Joe Thomas maybe say this deal's a no-goer. But with Grealish obviously injured now, and obviously Beto seemingly not in favour at all, even as maybe like the second backup striker, is this a loan signing that we could look to explore?
No, we shouldn't.
End the conversation.
I've admittedly not seen a lot of Joshua Zirkzee. And also, by the way, it should be said, should he be returning to Everton? Because obviously, famously, was at the club as a youngster, wasn't he? So, but I've not seen an awful lot of Zirkzee, I have to say. But what I have seen of him, I've not been very impressed. And I don't think he's much of an upgrade on the 2 centre forwards we've already got. He's certainly not good enough to play in the number 10. I think there's multiple people we've got at Everton who are much better than him to play in the number 10.
We've got a comment here from the Blues who says he's levels ahead of Beto, but it won't happen.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure.
You don't think he's levels ahead of Beto?
I think.
Remember, just to clarify, these are loan options. These are not some people who want to spend 20-30 million on. You're scraping, with all due respect to these players, the bottom of the January transfer window barrel.
Well, there's a reason why I'm not giving the whole game away. There's a reason why these players are going to get mentioned. It's because they're not playing. That's why, isn't it? Most of them aren't in the picture for the first team. Or
it's been indicated to them that they might have been playing, but they're not going to be playing in the next couple of weeks or months.
I just think with Zirkzee, I'm not sold, to be honest with you. I don't know if he's cut out for the Premier League.
Short-term option.
I get that, but it won't happen now. But I think if we were talking about something like that, I'd rather have taken Callum Wilson to the end of the season.
Do you know what?
I think he'd be a better option off the bench, to be honest with you, than Joshua Zirkzee was.
Yeah, I agree with you for the short-term future, and he's not a player that I've included in these 5.
But he's stayed at West Ham now. Well, he cemented himself as a cult hero when he scored the winner against Tottenham the other week. Like that, when he needs the goal from someone to step up and score, he provides quite a big one. So I think he showed, and I think he got off the bench that day as well. So he probably showed why Nuno should keep him around, just to chuck him off the bench. Exactly why Everton would probably go for him. But yeah, I think in terms of like I'd go with Wilson over Zerke. So yeah, I'm not sold on Zerke, I have to say.
Okay, it's a no from Connor then on that one. Mixed bag of comments, to be fair, with regards to Zerke on that. Jay says Zerke is definitely levels above Beto, and at least we can finish talking about him now because I don't have to say his name again. I'm pronouncing it wrong. Okay, the next one is Wilson Isidore, who is at Sunderland, I think, on loan. So I've included this guy in, and I need clarification on the rule. I don't know whether you can help. He's a player at Zenit, but he's on loan at Sunderland. So I don't know whether he's basically fallen down the pecking order at Sunderland. This is where he's come into it. He's had 20 starts, 20 appearances, 11 starts, and scored 4 goals. Anyway, he was prolific in the Championship for Sunderland. Is he a loan option that we could look at?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
While you speak, I just need to clarify a couple of stats. So go on.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I know he was obviously good in the Championship, but we've seen it before, haven't we? Step up from the Premier League step up from the Championship to the Premier League is huge, and yeah, I think, without being too snobby, if he can't get a look in at Sunderland, he didn't get a look in there. There's got to be a reason why, hasn't there? So yeah, he's not someone who I would be blown away by if they did bring him in on loan. I
don't know too much about him, to be honest. Someone who's mentioned the name that's not in our list, but Evan Ferguson. Where's he now?
He's at Roma.
On loan?
On loan, yeah.
I don't know how well he's doing, and I know
he was struggling, but he's coming to his. I think he's got a few goals in the last couple of weeks. He's come into his own a little bit. But I know Paul Barber, the Brighton CEO, was quite firm when asked about Ferguson actually the week, and he made clear that I think he's at Roma till the end of the season. I don't think they've got any plans to recall him. I don't think Roma have got any plans to send him back. So I think he'd be at Brighton for till at least the end of till the end of the campaign.
According to SofaScore, Wilson Isidore scored more Premier League goals than Beto this season.
Okay.
4 and 11 starts, 20 appearances. No loan option for you there if it was available.
I mean, it's a body, isn't it? I suppose you could come off the bench, but
I guess the big thing, which we'll speak about this after I've named the 5, but I guess it depends on what happens with Beto, because I know Chris Beasley has written a piece on the Liverpool Echo website saying, Beto could go in January depending on how things transpire. And I know he was linked with Fenerbahce, but I know Moyes kind of shot that down a little bit in his pre-match press conference the other day, saying he's not heard anything about it. But I just don't think that means anything. Moyes could just be being coy on his future there, isn't it?
Well, if they get a right offer, if they get an offer that they probably deem too good to turn down, then
there's no one in the Premier League, is there, at this moment, who's like, everyone's desperate for a striker, but there's no one in there. Maybe other than West Ham, who have signed 2 players now. I think, right, can we get a striker who's Premier League kind of proven? And Beto would effectively fall into that category of like one of the lower teams struggling for relegation.
Well, the mad thing is, like you say there, the one club who had the Premier League proven centre forward, who might have been service requirements, was West Ham and Callum Wilson. He was the one player who, if he was available, is at least Premier League proven and has got experience of scoring goals in the Premier League.
Simon Coolhan Luke says things must be desperate with the players mentioned so far. This is depressing. But is it just not a product of where we are in the January transfer window?
It's a product of the window just on the whole, isn't it? There's a reason why not much business has been done. I think as well, you've got to take into consideration, you look at the deals that have been done so far, and it's been pretty underwhelming, hasn't it? And you think, Brennan Johnson went to Crystal Palace from Tottenham for 35 million, and Conor Gallagher has gone to Tottenham from Atletico Madrid for about 40 million. Now, with the greatest of respect to them 2 players, if Everton would have made moves for either of them 2 at the price that they've gone for, I think we'd have more questions than answers. Because I think Brennan Johnson's obviously someone who's shown signs of promise, but I don't think he's by anywhere near the finished article, product. I still think there's a lot of flaws to his game. Likewise, Conor Gallagher, I think he's not a bad player, but he's not someone who sets the world alight. Everton are well stocked in midfield, but midfielders, obviously, you've got James Garner, Idrissa Gana Gueye, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, Merlin Rowell. So, they're well stocked in that area of the pitch. So, I think if you look at them two as examples of how the market's gone so far and what business has been done, that is kind of sets the bar for why we probably are looking at some of the players we are, and who could come in.
Richard Thomas says the question of both Zierski, I can't say his name, and Isidore is, are they better than Beto? And the answer is yes, from Richard's opinion. We'll move on. We've got another one. Let me get me graphic ready. A player heavily linked with Everton, Connor, over the past 2 weeks. Fenerbahce forward Yusuf Nesri. Let me get the graphic up. There he is on the screen for those watching on YouTube. Rumoured to be available as Fenerbahce look to rebalance their squad. He's only made 6 appearances with 6 starts, but no goals. Is he someone that you know much about, Connor? Said to be dominant in the air and a tireless worker.
I don't know much about him until recently when he was first linked with Everton, and I did a bit of looking him up. I think he's very much more of a workman, like centre forward, than a goal scoring centre forward. As you probably imagine from your description just now, he probably seems a bit likely because not that they would sign him, not that they're going to sign him, sorry, but you could see maybe some sort of swap deal going on between Fenerbahce and Everton in the sense that Beto goes one way and he comes in the other. That would make sense, I suppose, because at least then Everton are not losing out to actually bring someone in. I
guess the question is, which is a gamble. Is he better than Beto?
We don't know.
That's the gamble. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we don't know, do we? Because we haven't really seen enough from him. Obviously, the Turkish league's very hard to judge. So the jury is probably still out on that one, and it's probably a case of we don't know until we maybe see it. But that one might make sense. Just
if Beto was to go.
Just because of the Beto links, yeah, and the other way.
Ken Sprayer says, tongue-in-cheek, how about a cheeky loan deal for England's second best striker? Hey, Connor. Laughing face emoji.
Well, I don't think we'll be getting our hands on Don. We'll be given he's now leading the line for Leeds United every week, so.
Okay, next one. So Liam, EFC 1997, has obviously seen my list, and it says, I've heard we are linked to Sasha Bowie, a right back from Bayern Munich. So we'll move on from the forward players to defensive reinforcements and the right back side of things. Sasha Bowie, I think that's how I pronounce his name. Let me get his graphic up there on the screen. There he is. So according to German reporter Christian Falk, Everton are reportedly eyeing a move for Bayern Munich's right back. He has been struggling for consistent minutes in Germany. He's made 9 appearances with 5 starts, 0 goals, 0 assists. And I think he's been injured or / he's had a mysterious, which I've read, and in part of my notes, he's had a mysterious stomach infection.
All right.
That's what I've read. And he is now back in full training. So whether he's going to force his way back into the Bayern Munich team or whether Bayern Munich will say, well, let's take this time to get you out on loan to build your fitness up. Again, Connor, someone I don't know too much about. Again, like you say, we've been linked with him. But I guess now, with Nathan Patterson kind of emerging with relatively decent fitness and getting regular starts, as the right back situation, like, I don't know what is it eased a little bit?
Well, I think it's twofold, this, isn't it? Because if that's a loan deal to the end of the season, then the right back situation is definitely eased, where you think they might move away from bringing someone in on loan, because technically they've got Nathan Patterson, Jake O'Brien and James Coleman on the bench on Monday night as well. So that's three right backs already. I think whoever comes in right back has got to be a long term kind of, this is our new right back. He's going to play every week. You're the future type thing. I don't really see the point in bringing in a stopgap at right back. I know some people might disagree with that.
But Patterson in many ways has eased the need, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, and the fact about, we all saw what happened at half time on Monday night. A certain Jaron Brathwaite came back has emerged back into the fold. Michael Keane's suspension is now up, so that means straight away David Moyes has got 3 centre backs to choose from if he's going to stick with 4 at the back, which means that Jake O'Brien will probably find himself back at right back could find himself back at right back. So all of a sudden there's a lot more options, I think, there now than what there was. And I just don't see the point in bringing in someone for a stopgap, to be honest with you, to the end of the season at right back. I think whoever comes in as Everton's next right back has to be the nailed on right back for years to come. It's got to be someone who they see as the next, no stopgap, just someone who's coming in to be the number 1 right back for many years to come. So I don't see the point in bringing in someone on loan for 6 months. I think it'd be better just bringing in someone who's naturally going to become the next right back for the football club.
Ken Sprayer says the elephant in the room is left back, not right back. Mykolenko is shocking going forward. He needs to be replaced before the summer. What I will say on that is I don't disagree with Mykolenko's recent form, but obviously the return of Branthwaite, a lot of people are suggesting.
Afraid the back.
Yeah, but even if you wanted to stay forward at the back, could Branthwaite move over to the left side just to provide a little bit of competition for Mykolenko, and you've still got Tarkowski and O'Brien?
I just can't see Jarrad Branthwaite not playing in the heart of Everton's defence.
I agree, and I'd be cautious to play him on the left side.
I understand what people are saying, because I think there's an argument, isn't it, that people believe Mykolenko has to have some competition, and probably should be put under a bit of pressure because he hasn't been great in recent weeks. But I just can't see Jarrad Branthwaite. He's Everton's best defender by an absolute country mile. You can't be putting him at left back. I mean, it's just madness. In my opinion, he's got to play.
I'm just making a timestamp of that note so I can clip that. That was good. No, but that's good.
But it's true, isn't it? He is the best defender we've got at this football club. He's got the ability to step into midfield and play with the ball. Why would you not just? He's got to play centre back. That's his natural position. That's his best position on the football pitch, and you should play your best players in the best positions. And he is Everton's best centre back, so he'll be in the heart of Everton's defence. I could end up with massive custard pie on my face here because David Moyes might do what I think is the unthinkable and put Jarrad Branthwaite at left back at the weekend. But at the same time, I would be absolutely shocked. I think if Branthwaite is back in that team, he's back in the heart of the defence.
You just cemented that as a clip now, so thanks for that.
Oh, and also Branthwaite's pace, because it's much more beneficial for Branthwaite to play at the heart of the defence with his turn of pace than at left back.
I'm in mind to agree with you completely. And what I would say is there is a certain Adam Asnou who should be pushing for a left back start. We've had this conversation plenty of times, so we won't go into that.
I was going to say, now we're going back onto old ground.
I know. What I'd say is about, what's his name? Sacha Bowie. He's got the dreadlocks. He's sporting the dreadlocks. Imagine him and Michael Keane in training. Michael Keane would be all over those dreadlocks, pulling that hair, wouldn't he?
Move on.
Okay, the next one is another...
It's the last one, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the 5th one, so we're on number 5. We've done quite well. Is another right back, but he can also play centre back, so he's currently at Chelsea. And let me get the graphic up.
It's like a big surprise, this, isn't it, for the viewers? Like, who's going to appear on the graph next?
Oh, nightmare, this. So it's Axel Disasi. Disasi, yeah. So apparently he is available for loan, and West Ham were interested in him. He hasn't played for Chelsea. He's at Chelsea. Hasn't played for Chelsea this season. In the Conference League, Conference League last season for Chelsea, he had 6 appearances, 6 starts, 1 goal, and 2 assists. So, does say he is actually primarily a centre back, to be fair. So I think we've kind of just answered this. If Patterson can stay fit,
this is the least, and I'm not bursting your bubble here by any means.
You do anyway. You usually do anyway.
But this is the least sign that we just don't need.
A right back
stroke centre back. We've got, as of on Saturday, we're going to have 3 centre backs in Michael Keane, James Tarkowski, and Jarrad Branthwaite available for selection. You then got Jake O'Brien, who can play centre back or right back. You've then got Nathan Patterson, who could probably deserves to keep his place, if we're being brutally honest. He's done well. I don't think he was massively, looked out of his depth by any means, so probably deserves to keep his place. Then you've got Seamus Coleman, who made and come up played. Who was on the bench? Who was on the bench on Monday night? Has made his return from injury. You've got James Garner, who can also play right back if required. Admittedly, you won't want to move him out the middle of the pitch, but he can play there if required. You've got Maitland Rowe, who's also said that he can play right back if required. So that's 8 options there, essentially, of players who can play in one of them positions. So this is a sign that we just don't need to make in any way, shape or form.
To clarify, in the short term, though, we obviously need a right back for the long term, don't we?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying before. It seems like the next right back who comes into the football club should be the right back who Everton want to play at the heart of their team every week. Like that's the non-negotiable. The next right back who comes in should be the right back for years to come. Just like the left back, if they bring in the left back, it should be someone who can challenge Mykolenko from the off, or is seen as the first choice left back because he's an upgrade on Mykolenko.
So pretty much a no from all of them from you, other than maybe Yusuf and Nesri.
I think an Nesri could make sense, yeah.
We'll just put him back on the screen for those who are watching on YouTube so people can see him. It all depends on, as we've said, whether an offer comes in for Beto, whether it's a swap deal with Fenerbahce or whether we can get money or whether it's a loan deal.
Strange things happen, don't they, towards the end of transfer windows.
Right, that's enough of that. Let's finish off the podcast talking about Tiano Barry, because you had the pleasure of speaking with him after the game in the mix zone. So what was that like?
Yeah, obviously, someone who we spoke to for the first time this season. It was myself and a handful of other journalists got the chance to grill him. It was very interesting.
Grill him? Would you grill him for? It's just a nice little conversation, isn't it?
We obviously asked,
Did you tell him off for that celebration? That he didn't go and grab the ball and run back?
He explained why he gives the celebrate. He explains why he done the celebration.
Just to clarify, I've got no problem with celebration. It's just that we weren't winning the game, so we should have grabbed the ball and ran back.
I tell you what, just complete sport, aren't you? Robbing people at the moment.
Just love moaning.
Everton dar. but no, it was really good. It was the first time we've had the chance to speak to him this season. Obviously it's been a tough run, hasn't it? Obviously he come in, was it 15 shots before it took him to get one on target. The stats were quite damning, weren't they?
The standout one as well. Sorry, the miss Sunderland away from home.
It was a bit rough for him. But obviously since that goal against Forest at the start of December, he hasn't really looked back. He's got 4 Premier League goals in his last 4 goals in his last 5 Premier League games, which is a big improvement. And yeah, it was good to speak to him. Obviously he was very open. He's obviously still improving his English and stuff like that. But it was interesting how he said about the adapting to life in England, adapting to life in the Premier League had been tough. And obviously now he was up against the best defenders in the world. It's taken time, and he's having to learn how to build up the kind of the strength to hold the ball up and stuff like that. But he's vowed to repay the faith that David Moyes has put in him. Obviously Moyes has really stuck by him, hasn't he? That's one thing from all this. I think around October time, David Moyes made the decision to stick with Beto. To stick with Barry over Beto and give Barry a continued run of games. And he's now reaping the benefits of that, because obviously he's scoring goals. But yeah, it was really, really refreshing. It was good to hear him speak. And it was kind of one of them conversations where you come away and you just hope he does well, because how he conducted himself, and he answered every question the best he could. And yeah, it was one of the more uplifting, even after a draw, uplifting interviews that we've done in the mix zone. And he is just a young lad who's adapting to life in the Premier League, and I don't think that can be forgotten. And that's probably a little bit the same with Tyler Dibblin. Admittedly, he's not adapting to the Premier League because he's already played in it, but that ability to play every week and work your way into it, I think is paid dividends for Tiano Barry, and perhaps maybe that's the way David Moyes might go with Tyler Dibblin in the distant future.
You must have just seen me write this down. First of all, I'm made up for Barry, and I'm made up that you got a chance to speak to him, and obviously it's been tough probably for him over the past couple of months. I still think we need to have a little bit of caution with him. Let's face it, Beto.
Oh yeah, he's still incredibly raw.
But look, Beto went on a run of 5 or 6 games with goals, and we all thought, well, he could be doing something here. Quite clearly, Barry's got a lot more than what Beto can offer. I think that's plainly obvious.
I also think it's the type of finishers as well that we've seen from Barry in recent weeks. Yeah. We never saw that type of composure from Beto with his goals. Certainly done against Aston Villa. You know, he knew exactly what he was doing there. Didn't he? Might dink the ball off the goalkeeper. I thought it was a great finish though. Got himself at the near post. Instinctively, you know, flung his foot at it, and he was really unlucky as well. People forget that just before he scored, where Darlow makes a flying save, where he cut inside and went with the outside of his foot. That was written. He created that off his own back. You know, that was all his own hard work. So that's another positive sign that he's starting to carve out opportunities for himself by himself.
So based on, you mentioned Devlin there, and I wanted to bring kind of intertwine this together. Why doesn't David Moyes now, considering with the way the league's gone, I know there's no immediate fear of relegation or anything like that, so the pressure's off in that sense, and we know there's pressure on to win games, to push for Europe and finish high up the table as possible, so I get that, but why not take a page out of his own book with what he's done with Barry, with Devlin? Effectively, Barry's played his way into form. Moyes has tried to be as consistent as possible with him, and he's picked him over Beto, and that's been the right choice. Now, can he not do the same with Devlin here? I know Devlin came on and maybe flattered to deceive again on Monday, but Barry has done that a couple of times in the past. Let's maybe try that with Devlin on the right, especially now that Grealish is injured and I can move over to the left.
It's the $1 million question, isn't it? Is Dave Moyes going to do that? Probably the blueprint to show that, you know, the blueprint is there, isn't it? You know, what he's done with Tiano Barry, can you do with Tyler Devlin? There just seems to be a reason why David Moyes doesn't perhaps feel as confident as putting Devlin as what he did with Barry. There must be something there that we don't know. He's
got He's got greater options.
Yeah, he's got greater options, and you also wonder, don't you, how much he genuinely rates Beto as well. You know.
No, but let's face it. At one point in the season, it was the toss of a coin whether Beto or Barry was playing. He would literally go 45 minutes Beto, then the next 45 Barry.
I mean, and both
the
of
next
them,
game he'd do the opposite.
And you are right, both of them, Beto and Barry, at times this season, did nothing to justify their inclusion in the team. You know, there was games where at half time it might have seemed a little bit brutal and a bit harsh, but Moyes was fully justified in swapping the centre forwards because they hadn't done much. But yeah, it is the kind of the $1 million question now, isn't it? Is David Moyes going to do with Tyler Devlin what he's done with Tiano Barry to try and play him, try and get him a bit of confidence, try and just almost play him into a bit of form?
But we're going to need him as well. Let's face it. Grealish is out injured for. I know it hasn't necessarily been confirmed by the club, but it's looking 3 months. And McNeil, based on the Monday's performance, is quite clearly not good enough to be on the ball from a technical point of view. He might be able to do a job away from home, you know, but even his work rate was poor on Monday. Mm-hmm. So Devlin is going to have to be used. He can't shy away now, Moyes, from using Devlin. He was forced to use Barry on many occasions. In a way, now he should be forced to use Devlin and make him play his way into form. Now, it might not work. Here's me just saying it's not going to be as simple as that. But let's try it. Let's just try it.
Yeah, I don't. People disagree.
As I feel a bit sorry for McNeil as well, though. I do. I mean, we've had this conversation on Monday. Like, I do feel a little bit sorry for him, but he's just not. He's not good enough. He was probably just about good enough to be in the team. He was the best player to keep us up from relegation. Things have moved on very quickly. Yeah,
certainly in that area of the pitch, the quality has him. You know, if we're being honest, it's probably the one area in the pitch, isn't it, where the quality has improved tenfold in a short space of time, because, you know, obviously Ndiaye's really come into his own, you know, being outstanding. Grealish obviously being, you know, really good. Dewsbury Hall's been a lot better than what I thought he was going to be. I think he's been a bit of a driving focal point. I think that in turn has lifted James Garner and just kind of Gay's levels as well. So all of a sudden, like, you know, that midfield kind of pretty much picks itself when everyone's available. So McNeil's probably been a little bit unfortunate in how quick that area of the pitch has improved.
It's unfortunate, but it's just football, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you compare it to other areas of the pitch in which I think there are still major question marks, i.e. the 2 fullback areas, i.e. the centre forwards, things haven't quite improved in them areas as fast as what it has in midfield, and that's probably why McNeil has found himself, you know, on the outside looking in for large parts of the season.
Okay, we are going to finish off. We are going to be back on Friday to preview the Brighton game. Chris and Joe are off to Brighton. So if we're going to be live on Friday, it's probably going to be an early one, because they have got a long journey down south Friday afternoon following David Moyes' press conference, depending on what time that is. What's the plan for you tonight, Connor? Champions League?
Yes.
You're going to watch Champions League?
I will be watching the Champions League. Don't know what game I'm going to watch yet, Dom, but
This is the final game in the league stage, isn't it?
Yeah, so everyone plays at the same time.
I guess this is probably if you're gonna
the one night to watch the goal show, I think, because you'll be able to see the table as it changes and stuff like that.
This is the most exciting aspect of the league.
Obviously, beat yourself. I mean, you've just been looking at the table, haven't you? It's very tight, and there could be a lot of moving parts.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you for coming on. When are we next gonna have you back on?
Whenever you want me on, Ian.
We'll figure it out. Okay, thank you for watching today's live stream on the Royal Blue YouTube channel. And if you've listened on Spotify and Apple, I appreciate it. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. We will be back Friday. I've been Ian Croll with Connor O'Neill, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.